So this is our last episode in our Explaining the EBVs. We can do more if we get some questions. So any feedback, we can answer those, or you can answer them. I can just ask them.
Sure.
So now we're talking carcass traits, and they are pretty important because that's how we get paid.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what do we got there?
So first of all, we've got carcass weight.
Yes.
And then we have the measurements that are taken, which on ultrasound measurements essentially, but they're predicting eye muscle area, fat depth over the rib, fat depth over the rump, and intramuscular fat.
Yeah.
And then there is also retail beef yield, which is not actually a measured trait, but it's predicted from the other ones.
Okay. So carcass weight, it's predicted as well, right? How does it?
So a combination, so where there is carcass data, then carcass data weight goes into that. But the reality is, because of our recording systems, we don't get the chance to get a lot of carcass data. Mm-hmm. So, that's also correlated off, the lots of 600-day weight, mm-hmm. As well as real carcass data.
And then the fats, essentially rib, rump, and IMF, that's all with scanning data. They come on farm and ultrasound.
Yeah, in practice, so it's not, where we do again have carcass data, then the actual carcass data does go into analysis, but that's normally only from special research projects and progeny test type situations. So from the vast majority of that data that's collected is collected by breeders paying someone to come in and scan their cattle on their own farm. Yep.
Yeah. And then so those fats, because fats, you hear a lot of people say, we need heavily fatted cattle. Like, is that, how do we talk about that?
Yeah, that's a long and in-depth subject, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying we want positive fat cattle because we actually want to make sure we have enough fat on our cows.
Yes.
Is essentially why they're saying that.
Yeah.
I'm a believer that actually we should be measuring the fat on our cows from a body condition score, not necessarily ultrasounding them, rather than just predicting off a heifer measurement, because those ultrasound scans are done on bulls, and often quite young bulls, because we're trying to scan them before we have yearling sales. And they don't have a lot of fat on them at that point. Mm-hmm. And then they're done on heifers, but they're not on cows. Yeah. And the correlation is not that strong. Mm-hmm. So, rather than select on using a pretty blunt tool to get a fat cow, we should actually select on a body condition score. But we don't have one of those right at the moment. We're in the process of working on it. And then, but then there's the, what actual fat do we want for the carcass? And that's quite a complex question to answer, and it sort of really depends on, your system and where you are at the moment. And but we're probably not in too bad a shape at the moment, right?
Yeah, cool. And then retail beef yield, that is the boned out carcass.
Yeah, so that's actually, often when you talk about yield, from farmer point of view, they're often thinking about dressing out percent, which is conversion of a live weight to a carcass weight. But retail beef yield is actually conversion of carcass weight to the amount of beef that can actually be sold off that carcass after it's boned out. So they're two sort of related, but they're actually different things. Yeah.
And then we've got IMF in there.
Yep. So IMF, or intramuscular fat percentage, that's our measure of in the works it's graded as marble score, right? So, and that's about eating quality, and there's overseas for a long time there's been programs that you get paid based on eating quality, and which is basically marbling score is the default measurement, and those systems are coming or have come into New Zealand. There's probably most meat companies now have some program where they're paying for quality, and have done for maybe 10 years or so. And so I'm a big believer in making sure that we have eating quality. I'm a big believer in making sure that we're sort of differentiating our beef and producing some quality beef against some of our grass-fed competitors. But it's not everything too, like, kilos of carcass on the hook is what pays the bills, and then eating quality is the icing on the cake. Yeah.
And then I'm just going to throw this one in because it's another outlier. We've got docility there.
Yep.
It's also really important for eating quality.
Yeah, it can be. So animals that are not docile and then get agitated, you know, especially just shortly prior to kill, can have pH problems. So that's documented. But probably more importantly for most people is just safety and ease of handling on the farm.
Absolutely.
You know, none of us want our staff or our families in the yards with cattle that are that don't do what they're told, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And essentially, one temperamental beast can upset the rest of them on a truck, can't they? Like,
Yep.
there's stories where you send a truckload away and one cattle beast will fizz up everyone.
Yeah, fizz up everyone, and then you'll end up with pH problems in the whole, in a significant number of the mob.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, no, not cool, but worth mentioning.
Worth mentioning.
Anyway, that wraps us up. That does it for our EBVs Explained.
Sure.
Any questions? Jason's on the page, so please get in touch and we can sort them out.